Hello, my friends in film fandom, wherever you are, and however you may be watching. Thank you so much for giving us just a little bit of your time. And boy, my most anticipated movie of 2023, and it did not disappoint me at all. A very interesting film, and I am very glad to finally get a chance to sit and talk about it because there is so much to go into. And I'm very glad that going into it with me tonight will be my two amazing co-hosts. The first one is my hetero life mate, G. Michael Tuesday. What's up, buddy?
Just checking the amount of rads and all the potential fallout, potential ruining the universe. Because what's life without a little bit of danger? You know what I mean? Theory will only get you so far. But as you can tell, I'm very excited for this. Got my definitely not Nuka-Cola and definitely not Coca-Cola. I'm not sponsored. So
not yet. We're still got a while.
And don't ding us, you two. These are not real. These are fake. But hey, V for victory, baby.
They're candy cigarettes, YouTube. Calm the hell down.
Yeah, they're. Don't worry. I don't smoke. I don't endorse smoking. But we know a man who can rock a tobacco pipe like no other.
No doubt.
So let's get into it.
And of course, our own resident mutant, the shape for the Lone Star State, our man Tex. What's up, brother?
Hey, as a drive-in mutant of the Joe Bob Briggs variety, I gladly accept that honor. But I'm probably going to piss a lot of folks off that like to suck off Christopher Nolan in this one. So this should be a fun review. I look forward to this. So, it's all good. I look forward to bring the other side of what Christopher Nolan does a lot of times. So it'll be good.
Yeah, basically, Tex is going to spend the next hour and a half or 2 hours telling you why he doesn't like any movie that doesn't have murder and boobs in it.
It had boobs. It did, in fact, have boobs. Probably not enough.
That is true.
That as well.
It was Florence Pugh, and you know me. You see Florence Pugh, I'm in. However,
hey,
sorry to disappoint.
They do get extra star points for the boobs. So shout out to whoever that girl's name was because she was more than qualified. So God bless that woman.
Pretty sure that was her.
Oh goodness! But as you can tell by the thumbnail and by the background, we are here to talk about Oppenheimer. That's a 2023 epic biographical thriller film written and directed by Christopher Nolan. It's based on the 2005 biography American Prometheus, written by Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin. The film chronicles the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer, a theoretical physicist who was pivotal in developing the first nuclear weapons as part of the Manhattan Project, and thereby ushering in the atomic age. Cillian Murphy plays the titular character. Get it? Titular? Perfectly worded, right? With Emily Blunt as Oppenheimer's wife, Katherine Kitty Oppenheimer. Matt Damon plays General Leslie Groves, Oppenheimer's military handler, and Robert Downey Jr. plays Lewis Strauss, a senior member of the United States Atomic Energy Commission. Other members of the supporting cast include Florence Pugh, Josh Hartnett, Casey Affleck, Remy Malik, and Kenneth Branagh, who I love Kenneth Branagh. So good. Just a few minutes he was on screen, I loved him. Let's see, on Rotten Tomatoes, 93% of 215 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 8.8 out of 10. The website's consensus reads, Oppenheimer marks another engrossing achievement from Christopher Nolan that benefits from Murphy's tour de force performance and stunning visuals. Richard Roper of the Chicago Sun-Times awarded Oppenheimer a perfect 4 out of 4 stars, describing it as magnificent and one of the best films of the 21st century. I think that might be reaching a little bit so soon, but whatever. I still think it was a very good film. Real quick.
I say 5 out of 5. What the hell is 4 out of 4?
Yeah, I know.
What the hell is that?
Why an even number? It's so odd. But get it?
I'd like 2 and 3 from 5, huh?
Yeah. But Jeremy, quick paragraph, just kind of general thoughts of the film before we get too into the spoiler discussions. What do you think of Oppenheimer? Just first reactions.
It was pretty mind blowing. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna make plenty of puns that involve bombs. So whether they're good bombs or I'm sure Texas is gonna have bad bombs. But I mean, what was that movie called? We all have to learn to love the bomb.
Dr. Strangelove.
Dr. Strangelove. Yep. So whether you want to write it like a rodeo clown or whatever. No, Honestly, I thought this movie was pretty awesome. Had pretty high expectations, and honestly, I thought it was fun. I mean, I like historical war dramas, stuff like that. And even though I kind of feel like this has that same thing as Titanic. I'm like, we know what's going to happen. The ship's going to sink. We know this leads up to them, detonating the atomic bomb for the first time. And it's like, what a moment of history that is. And I still, he still captured like the feeling, like the anxiety of like, well, we don't know what's going to happen when this, we could, it's near zero, but we could potentially destroy the entire fabric of reality and all life as we know it. But it's near zero. It's fine. It'll be fine.
Near zero.
But I mean, man, just from start to finish, the way the movie was framed, I mean, it had the framing device of him later in his life talking to this basically kangaroo court panel of people that are just trying to slander his name through the mud. Kind of jumping back and forth between, him getting his start, him getting to the school, starting teaching, getting into the Manhattan Project. And then, I mean, the use of sound, the use of these visuals, and especially when the bomb goes off, it's just like dead silent. I mean, I was like, I was almost holding my own breath too when it happened. It was wild. I didn't hate it. I'd watch it again.
Yeah, I will probably watch it again at some point very soon. But Tex, how about you?
Movie.
Yeah, Tex, how about you? Brief paragraph on what you thought of the movie overall.
Cheers.
Movie was shot well, incredible acting. But why in the blue fuck was this thing 3 motherfucking hours? Jesus Christ! Is Christopher Nolan just jacking himself off in front of everybody, saying, "Look at how good I am"?
With practical effects too. It's like you're really there.
Okay, 20 seconds of practical effects don't make up for 3 hours of dramatic conversation. I'm sorry. It's just
you got a whole story to tell. You gonna tell it in an hour and a half? Hell no.
Make this movie 2 hours, and I would have liked it. 3, I'm fighting sleep here. Somebody do something besides have Cillian Murphy look like he's about to, see, some zombies come out of a building and he's got to run. I mean, this man needs sleep or do less crap because, good God, what's going on with those eyes? But I mean, I knew what this movie was going into it. It's not a war movie; it's a biopic. I'm not a biopic guy. Just it is what it is. But movie of the year. That depends on who you talk to. But it is what it is.
Yeah, for me, I mean, look, a movie is as long as it needs to be, and there is a lot to be said about Oppenheimer, his life. The Manhattan Project by itself is a fairly complicated and interesting story. You could have really just limited it to what happened at Los Alamos up to the detonation of the bomb, us actually using them in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And that alone could have been a very full 2 to 3 hour long movie. I've read a lot about World War II. I've read a lot about this kind of time period in world history, and there was a lot of stuff that I'm sure to keep the movie from being 3 or 4 days long, they probably cut out. But it is very much a biopic of Oppenheimer. It is not just about any one thing. It is about how he came to run the Manhattan Project. I love the little look into his early life, the Manhattan Project itself, and how it affected him afterwards. One of my favorite movies is Aviator. I love that movie. Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, Howard Hughes, much like Oppenheimer, is a very interesting character. You could probably make 10 or 12 different movies about him. But one thing I didn't really like about that movie is it kind of stops following him at one of the more intriguing parts of his life after, the Spruce Goose, the testimony and all that, the congressional testimony. It just kind of stops following him. Like there's not really anything to talk about after that. But the story of him is interesting from that point on. You could probably make a whole different movie about it. And I like the fact that they approach kind of these three stages of Oppenheimer's life: the lead up to the Manhattan Project, the Manhattan Project itself, and afterwards. It was a much more complete picture of who the guy was, as opposed to what Scorsese gave us of Howard Hughes and the Aviator. I mean, the movie doesn't really stop. I mean, from the opening scene to when the credits start to roll, it is bang, bang, bang. Here's one more thing. It is a different movie. It's a solid burn. It is a slow one at times, but I kind of dig that kind of filmmaking when there's a rich story to be told, because there's a lot of underlying shit about not just Oppenheimer, but about the things going on around him in his life that were interesting. From what I've read, the movie was historically fairly accurate. There were some things that some liberties were taken, and I understand them. There were some things that didn't happen the way they were portrayed in the movie, but whatever. It annoys me whenever they take too much creative liberty with historical things like this, but I'm willing to give them some leeway, because you can't just tell a story on film. It's not that simple. You have to make it theatrical. You have to make it interesting. But I mean, yeah, I mean, front to back, this movie is amazing performances. Why anybody would even want to compare this movie to Barbie is beyond me. I don't get it, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later too. Let's get right into it now that you've kind of had all of our kind of general thoughts. Let's get into the cast first. I mean, dude, God. I mean, Jeremy, I'll start with you. This cast was just loaded. I mean, if there was a murderer's row of actors, this was it. I mean, and not even just Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. I mean, this cast is just stacked with people who are perfectly cast and did such a great job portraying their roles. This really was, to me, one of those great films where nobody really wanted to be the shining star of this movie. They were just like, I want to come here and play my part in this amazing story, and just kind of let this movie happen. And they did it in spades. I can't pick out a single casting on here that wasn't good or that didn't work out perfectly. Jeremy, what do you think?
Yeah, it's not like anyone really overshadows anyone else. I mean, it's like they all kind of feel like they fit into this world. They all, meld into this story. I mean, even when you notice somebody, they're like, I'm from people my age, Josh Peck right there, or all of a sudden when I saw freaking Freddie Mercury on screen, I saw Rami Malek. I was like, whoa, wait, where? I was kind of like, okay, I'm interested now. Like, where's he at? Every new person that kind of came in, I was intrigued. But yeah, like I said, it's hard to, if I was trying to pick somebody, I mean, I don't know, because everybody does their part so well. I mean, this is one of those, like, where it all worked. You know what I mean? Like, no one's really stepping over anybody, like from, like you said, Robert Downey Jr. to Matt Damon to Emily Blunt, Cillian Murphy himself. I mean, I know we just had a appreciation post for the last, for Tim Curry, but I mean, you got to have a big appreciation for Cillian Murphy too. I mean, this dude can act. And I know we were all worried right after the Avengers, all that wrapped up with Endgame. It's like, I know RDJ tried to do that Doolittle movie, and it was kind of like, I think you tripped on your face a little bit. But I'm like, this movie right here, I'm like, if you ever had any doubts, which I don't know why you would, but if you ever had any doubts, this man can tear up a fucking scene that he's in. Holy crap. Like, I completely forgot it was even him. I mean, from the makeup too, and the way they dress these people. Even the person they picked to play Einstein, of all people, I was convinced. I'm like, they did a hell of a job on this. Yeah, and they even had young Han Solo in there. I mean, he was fucking good. Exactly.
And right there at the end of the movie, when his character kind of changes, I was like, damn, that's good acting right there.
When this dude's sitting there smirking at Robert Downey Jr., I was like, across the room from him, I was like, oh shit. You almost expect the power dynamic to kind of, but I was like, no, he sat there and held his own. I mean, like I said, I'm a big proponent of, I like the Solo movie. Sue me. But
it's not a terrible movie. It was better than I thought it was going to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no problem with Alden Ehrenreich in the movie.
No, that's what I'm saying.
The movie had its problems. He was good in it.
These people are, top of their goddamn game in this movie. It's one of those, where it all worked out in the end. And yeah, speak for itself.
Yeah, Tex, how about you? I mean, I know you had your problems with the movie, but you got to admit, this cast, man, they were hitting home runs left and right. It seemed like every other scene was somebody brilliantly delivering even the simplest piece of dialogue in spots. I mean, is there who from the cast really stood out to you?
Oh yeah,
you can't say Florence Pugh. You can't say the boobs. I'm stopping you right now.
I can't say Florence Pugh's boobs are my favorite of the movie. Well, crap.
No.
Right. I guess I'll go with my second choice.
That's a given. Because like I said, you say Florence Pugh to me, I'm in. You don't gotta say anymore.
Right. Great. I mean, when you're Christopher Nolan, you get the best of the best. The best talent, the best whatever. I mean, you know, whether you're a fan of the guy or not, you have to respect who he is and what he's done. And I mean, he got all of the best people to play the best roles here. I mean, the clear standout's Robert Downey Jr. and there's no other answer. I mean, yes, this might be Cillian Murphy's film, but Robert Downey Jr. puts him to shame in this movie. I thought Cillian Murphy, he did fine, he did well. I don't think he did as well as others are kind of praising him for. I think they're kind of blowing smoke up his ass a little bit. But Robert Downey Jr., Jesus Christ, when you're watching, you know, for as long as this movie was, anytime Robert Downey got on screen, he had my attention. And I mean, he knocked it out of the park. I mean, there's, you know, tremendous. If this is his kind of redemption film, well, you know, he's probably about to win a whole bunch of awards for this movie because he is the best thing of this movie. So, no question.
Yeah, again, this cast, it's just so damn good from top to bottom. I mean, as I was watching it, I was like, hey, wait a minute, is that that kid from Josh and Drake? And then I was like, oh, there's the one that everybody wants to play Sue Storm. And then I was like, oh, and then Remy Malik pops in, and I'm like, oh, there's the guy who played Freddie Mercury, and
the guy that was Bond. The guy that was across from the guy that was kind of grilling him in that little conference room with the glasses that set off to the left. I was like, he was in that movie with Johnny Depp where he played John Dillinger. He played his like right hand guy, like best friend. I was like, oh my god, there's that guy. He was in the Winchester movie as well. I was like, I know you because I've seen you, but I'm like,
yeah, Jason Clarke. He played John Connor in that Terminator Jenny Smith movie, or whatever the hell it was. But yeah, I mean, from there. You know, if you were a guy, I'll point to Remy Malik specifically. If you were a guy who, in the last several years, has had the successes that he's had, you had. I mean, for one, Mr. Nobody has been a big show for a while, and then he gets cast as Freddie Mercury in the biopic and kills it in that. Wins a bunch of awards. Everybody loves him. He gets to play a Bond villain, which is never a bad thing. I mean, if you want to make that's how you know your career as you've arrived, is when you even be in a Bond movie, let alone play a Bond villain. Those things are not. They don't just hand that out like whatever. I mean, you have to be a star. Think about the people that have played Bond villains over the years. So
I still remember when he was an Egyptian pharaoh. Damn it, I didn't forget.
Yeah, but
I remember.
But I mean, he could have very easily said, yeah, but I'm kind of a big star, so I kind of want to have a bigger role. But no, he's got like what, 5-6 lines towards the end of the film, like the third act is when you finally get to see him on camera. I mean, he's there and he's significant, but he didn't feel the need to like control the movie or to be such a huge part of it. And every actor is like that. Every actor comes in here and plays their role. I think even Robert Downey Jr. is as big a role as he has. Because let's face it, he's a very close. I mean, he's almost a co-lead in this movie. Even he kind of just plays the role. And Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Florence Pugh, Josh Hartnett, who himself has had a pretty good career. You know, Casey Affleck, Remy Malik, Kenneth Branagh, who himself is a huge star. Jason Clarke. There were so many people in here. I mean, David Krumholtz, who I love, Matthew Modine, it's, you know, Jack Quaid. I mean, he's not exactly slumming it right now. I mean, he's the lead in The Boys. Not to mention he was just in Scream 6 or Scream 5. I mean,
Scream 5.
And the guy who was the Hobgoblin, and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. He played.
Harry. He played Harry Osborn. Yeah.
Yeah, Gary Oldman was in this. I mean, It's just Dane DeHaan is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Name. Then Alden Ehrenreich, who himself is very good. It's like any one of these actors probably could. They have the pedigree and the body of work to come in there and say, I want to have a bigger role. I want to have more lines. But they were like, no, I see what this movie is going to be. This movie is going to be a generational film. It's going to be something way more special than just a big blockbuster. It's going to be something that is going to hit differently. I just want to be a part of it, and I will step back and play my role just to be a part of the story that's being told. And like I said, there isn't really a wasted scene in this movie, except for one that I'll go into later. But there isn't really a wasted scene in this movie. It's like all of it really does go very well. It's because of the cast. It's put together so well. I mean, a lot of that is the editing. I'm really interested to see what ended up on the cutting room floor of this film. When this comes out with like a director's cut or some deleted scenes or whatever, I'd be really interested to see what some of these scenes were, because I feel like there's so much they could have packed in here, or even maybe not packed in, even moved some things in and out and it still made it a fantastic film. The cast they just killed it. I mean, I have no complaints at all about.
Release the Nolan cut.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll talk about any potential award chances here in just a minute.
This thing's 3 hours, and you need more of this thing. Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
well, how much more do you want?
You give me 4 hours, I'm in.
Hey, Avatar, when it first came out, was 3 hours, and then they ended up re-releasing with 17 more minutes of footage, and I was just like, "Good God, what more did you need?" And that movie, the first Avatar is a good movie. I don't think it's as good as a lot of people think it is. Say it is, but I'm like, really, how many? That movie could have been 45 minutes shorter too. And even people who like the movie or really love the movie are like, yeah, you could have cut this by about 30 minutes, but okay. But it's like, come on, look, when it comes to the length of the movie, and we'll go into this a little bit more in depth in a minute, but the movie needs to be as long as it needs to be. Sometimes there are hour and a half long movies that feel like they take 3 days to watch. Sometimes there are movies like this one where I sit down, it starts, and then I feel like I blink and it's over, and I'm like, holy shit. And it's 3 hours long. It's like it's all about how you put the movie together ultimately. But I mean, a fantastic cast. But let me ask you guys this real quick, from an educational perspective, what, if anything, and I'll go to you first, Tex, did you learn about Oppenheimer from watching this film? Was there something that maybe popped out at you that you were like, holy shit, I didn't realize that was the case?
I mean, all cards on the table here. I don't know the historical accuracy of who and what Oppenheimer was. I think that had somewhat of an effect on my, feelings of the film, but I had no clue about all the communism stuff that he was like. That was a surprise to me. Now, like I said, I don't know how accurate or inaccurate this film was, but to hear the communist ties, especially in that time in America, that was kind of a shock to me. So that was it. Out of everything that they throw at you in this film, that to me stood out more than anything, for sure.
Jeremy, how about you? Was there something that you learned about Oppenheimer while watching this film that you didn't know ahead of time?
I think weirdly the other thing that I didn't know was that, I mean, if this was true, now that I'm questioning, I'm like, I don't know if it was true, but if it was, I didn't know that he had like a connection to New Mexico, right? Like that bit of land, like where that eventually they'd erect the town of Los Alamos and test the bomb there.
I love that set design for Los Alamos was, besides Robert Downey Jr., my favorite part of the whole movie. That looked incredible.
I mean, yeah, you gotta pop up essentially like a company town. It's like when you go to a town that works on a railroad or in like a coal mine or something. Like you gotta have, you take your family there. You take, or hell, even something that's kind of more prudent. Like you think of like Pripyat, like with the Chernobyl. Like they lived right there, and then they worked at the in the town or wherever else. So. I mean, if that was like, I didn't know he had like kind of a personal connection to it, or that's what he, and I don't blame the guy. I mean, I love being out there too. Like that whole scenery, that's my vibe. I love that. Out there, kind of not quite plains, but like, there's mountains, and it's, man, it's one of the best places to be. But I mean, I'm more of like this, that I knew about, I knew he was excuse me, like I knew he was kind of a womanizer. He, you know, I knew the whole thing about
he got it in everywhere he could. Yeah,
I know.
He wasn't bashful.
He's gonna answer the call, Damon.
Single, married. He didn't care if it was hot tail. He was nailing it, buddy. You know, I mean, he was. You know.
Again, if they look like Florence Pugh or Emily Blunt, I don't blame him. So, and I knew about the whole like suspected of being a communist, and I knew the whole after the fact. It's kind of like the line that stuck out to me was they're like, well, they'll need you until they don't. That's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of a weird place that your hands are kind of tied. You're just having to do this thing. And it's like, well, for what? And then when you realize what it's about, it's like, I don't know why they gave him so much crap. Like, oh, why'd you suddenly have a conscience? I'm like, well, because you don't understand what we just did, right? Like, that's on me. Like, I'm on the cover of Time magazine. That's what it is. You know what I mean? And even though
get that crap baby out of here. I love that line of the movie. That was funny.
I'm just saying, man, like as eccentric as this dude was, that would fuck you up, man. Having that like on your mind all the time. And whoever they had to play Truman, good job, because that dude is an asshole.
You really don't know who that was? You didn't recognize him?
I didn't.
That was Gary Oldman.
That was Gary Oldman.
Ah.
Yeah.
You said Gary Oldman. I was like, where the hell was he in the movie? Oh, I see it now.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, hey,
they got Commissioner Gordon back.
He looked like freaking Chevy Chase, so forgive me if I didn't know it was him. You could have put Chevy Chase in that.
Oh, if we could get a movie where Chevy Chase is playing the president, I'm there the first day. Like, you have my attention, sir. That would be.
But I mean, I appreciate the as the meme has now come to be. When he went to Truman, it was basically the joke of double it and send it to the next person, and I'm like, yeah, and that happened to be Japan. Now, look, I'm all for. I get it. You guys poked the bear, and you got fucking bit twice. But I'm like, there's something. That's what I'm saying. You found out. Again, you found out twice. However, I don't know. There's something a little bit about Truman that I'm like, I feel like it's you're a little too into this. So I don't know. Spot on. So I don't know. That's where I'm at. Also, I think the flash and the radiation is passed. I'm taking this off my face because it's fucking killing me. So it's good. Whew. All right, everybody, remove your safety glasses. It's going up. God damn. There's a reason I wear these on my head during Halloween, because there's no way in hell I'm putting them on my face. I also can't see shit because there is like fake blood caked in these things. So
here's an actual picture of Jerry in the theater for the explosive scene.
Yeah, there's a text that flashed across the screen and said, "Put your goggles on now," like a 3D movie or some shit.
Yeah.
Except the only thing you can't see is if the camera panned down, you would see his hand in his pocket looking for loose change. I mean, that's what he said he was doing, but I'm just gonna have to believe it. So.
Oh, like you said, bring the sheets in. Bring the sheets in.
Welcome to the podcast where we do laundry, folks. Here's how you fold a sheet. Corner to corner, bring them together. It's all good.
It's not a fitted sheet, because, I mean...
No, I'm not folding a fitted sheet.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I wouldn't either.
Oh, well then, yeah.
Hell no. Yeah.
For me, one of the things I didn't realize that Oppenheimer's relationship with Truman was so tedious. I thought that maybe I just hadn't read enough, because it had been quite some time since I had read too much about Oppenheimer and all that. But I didn't realize that there was not a hatred so much as an animosity. The way that Truman is portrayed as being kind of annoyed by Oppenheimer was something I didn't realize. I figured that maybe Truman had kind of given him the appreciation that he felt he deserved, and just kind of moved on. I didn't realize that Truman, because as I walked into the theater, I thought to myself, I've never read that Truman called him a crybaby and pretty much threw him out of the Oval Office. But when I went home that night, I looked at it, and sure as shit, that was a real conversation that was had. Now, apparently Oppenheimer did not hear him say it, but after Oppenheimer left, he did look at either his chief of staff or one of his aides and said, "I don't want that crybaby son of a bitch in my office again," or something like to that effect. And I was like, I didn't realize that there was that Truman thought that little of him. I figured that Truman probably would
You're
have said,
welcome.
Yeah, I figured that Truman I mean, even if he didn't like him, would have been like, hey, thanks for giving us this awesome kick-ass weapon that we can use
ended
to
a
shut
war.
everybody else into war with, but just go away. I don't want to be your friend. I just want to benefit from the thing you did. And that there was at least like this working relationship. It didn't seem like there was that even at that point. When I did not know that. I thought that was odd. So historically, I was kind of surprised at that.
There was like a video of it. I mean, I'm sure because there wasn't much in the way of like television really at this point, like widespread rather. But I don't know if it was like maybe because someone had to have recorded it, obviously, where he was giving this speech about it. The after of the bomb going off, and the thing that kills me is like he was just like, yeah, Hiroshima, and then like he's like, yeah, and Nagasaki, and he was like, yeah, fucking whatever. I'm like, wow. But there's like a video of it, him talking about the after, and there's this like this really just like you almost think like a Bond villain, like this sinister little fucking smile that goes across his face, and I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you, man? Like I said, it's almost like he enjoyed it a little too fucking much. That's the thing that kind of kills me about it. I don't know. I wasn't there when Truman's around, but I'm just saying that's, oh boy.
You know, trying to. I don't know why I didn't think to get one already, but I'm trying to get a picture of Gary Oldman as Truman. I love Gary Oldman. I mean, there's nothing that guy can do that's wrong. I mean, he's been in bad movies, but he's been awesome in them. You know what's interesting is he's now played 2 World War II leaders in the last like year. He was just in. I mean, obviously he plays Truman in this. He just played Churchill in. God, what's the name of the damn movie?
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, he just played Churchill in a movie that came out I think about a year and a half ago or so. But let me ask you guys this. There's been a little bit made about them not having a scene of us dropping the bomb on Hiroshima or Nagasaki in this movie. I'm not exactly sure that's a warranted criticism. Jeremy, what do you think? I mean, should they have depicted the bombs dropping? Maybe not in great detail, but just having a scene in there where it happens. I mean, was that missing in the movie, or do you think it worked okay without it?
No, because I think the point of the movie is, again, them getting through the Manhattan Project, getting it, you know, okay, see, now I see it. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just saying, if you would just sat Chevy Chase down in a fucking room, you can't tell me. Look, very well done. You fooled me. All right. Like I almost didn't catch that. John Voight was Roosevelt in Pearl Harbor. I was like,
Hey.
wow. You know what I mean?
You know,
Of course, that movie's that's like 30 some years ago now. But anyway. So yeah, you don't necessarily need it. It's the point of the movie is we're focusing on Oppenheimer, like I said, him coming to the States, doing the Manhattan Project, testing the bomb. And it's like, well, we know what it's going to be used for. We know the next step. We know what happens. We've seen it. I mean, I like that it kind of felt like it was from because realistically, I'm like, no one probably would have seen it except for the guys who filmed it in the plane when they're, hightailing it the hell out of Dodge. But like you would have heard it on the radio, like they're all waiting around. They're like, okay, so what happens? Because he said, let me know. Tell me when something happens. And they flip on the radio real quick and they're hearing it. I'm like, I feel like, again, that's that immersion that you're in it. You kind of feel like you're in that moment of like, again, he's probably like, this is now what? I did this and now what? He's probably pacing around the room thinking, oh shit, what do we do now? So kind of hearing, I think he gets that call like right in the middle of it. So I was still trying to like listen. I'm like, no, what's happening? What's happening? What's he saying? I don't know. I think it's better just, heard and not seen. But you'll see it first before you hear it. That was supposed to be funny.
Yeah, Tex, how about you? I mean, do you think that this movie would have benefited from having even a small scene depicting the actual bomb blowing up over Hiroshima or Nagasaki?
Well, I felt like this movie was a waste of IMAX. I mean, we prior to the releasing of it, it was, this is the most we use practical effects for this, that, and other thing, and blah, 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 blah. But why do you need to go to an IMAX screening for 3 hours of conversation and 20 seconds of, the test footage of the bomb, and that's all you really get? I mean, I don't know how much extra cost it is to make an IMAX over a normal film, and sure, it's substantial, especially if it's 11 miles of footage. And I mean, considering they had to make a whole, contraption, for the reel, but they should have had the bomb drop. I mean, this is the whole point. Yes, I understand it's a biopic. This is not a war movie. We're not going to see World War II, but we should have seen something. We have Oppenheimer sitting in a restaurant or something, and they're showing the footage on the TV. He's sitting in a government office. Wherever he sees it, it happens. But we should have seen the famous test footage in this film. I mean,
I was kind of surprised they didn't actually put any real footage in this movie, just kind of tied it in there.
Right. Well, that's what I was expecting. I was expecting even in the credits or something.
Well, even in
something about it.
Like maybe the Trinity test, like maybe the actual, if they had like a shot of it or some of that footage you've probably seen of atomic bombs going off.
Right.
I thought maybe that would be kind of fun to intercut into the movie, but still.
Well, it would have, like you said, it would have been cool if we saw one shot of the plane flying over and dropping the bomb. And maybe how we see it is as the plane is flying away, the camera turns and pans to the back and we see the explosion or something. That could have been cool, and you could have incorporated the old footage. You know what I mean? Do something like that. I mean, he could have played with it. He could have made it work. But as it is, we got, 2 hours and 50-something minutes of conversation with, when they tested it in Los Alamos, that was what, maybe 2 to 3 minutes of actual screen time. We needed the bomb. This is the whole point of, if it's not for the bomb, we're not talking about Oppenheimer, so that's needed. You know what I mean?
I still like that they left it on them watching the trucks take the bombs away, because that's as much as he would have seen. It's just like, where it's going. You're like, oh,
yeah,
Jesus
but
Christ.
What's the role of movies or TV? Show, don't tell, right? Yeah, I get it. We're in the 40s. We don't have media like we do now, where you can get footage of something across the world instantly. But when he's sitting in one of these committee meetings, they could have had the footage there, done something with it. It should have been there.
Well, you also have to think that to convert that to digital costs a whole lot of money. And
yeah, but they obviously didn't hold back on this movie. You know what I mean?
But they did. The budget for this movie is only $100 million. That's
wow.
Right. So what's another?
Now, if I had told you 6 years ago that Christopher Nolan was going to make a movie about the atomic bomb testing at Trinity and Los Alamos, you'd have thought to yourself, that's going to be $150 or $200 million movie easy. But no, $100 million.
This movie only cost $100 million because it's not a CGI Marvel movie fest. I would guess the majority went to probably that Los Alamos build. Actor salary, of course, because you've got Gary Oldman and Robert Downey Jr. They don't work for cheap. Not to mention Emily Blunt and everybody else. They could have invested a little more and converted that old footage into incorporating into this film somewhere. It should have been here. It's just, it would have, like I said, if it's not for that footage, we're not talking about Oppenheimer. That's the only reason he's famous right now. So should have been there.
Yeah, for me, I don't think it was necessary. Not for the way that you were telling the story. Now, would it have been an interesting little way to build some tension? Like, you see the bombs, because we see that scene. I actually really like that scene where they put the bomb as Fat Man and Little Boy into the crates and ship them off. I actually thought that was an interesting little way to subtly build tension on its own. But to have just a minute or so of the Enola Gay, like, on its way to Hiroshima, and then the bomb bay doors opening up, and then, like, as soon as somebody says, "Okay, drop," they hit the button. You see the bomb drop. Then it like cuts to black.
Flashes white.
And no, not even that. Just like it cuts to black and then slowly fades back into like Oppenheimer sitting in his office waiting for the phone call that the bomb had been dropped and it actually went off the way it was supposed to go off. Like that would have been an interesting way to build tension. Do I need the actual explosion? No. Because I've seen. Look, just for the sake of seeing an atomic explosion, I mean, Christ, we've seen it on TV or movies 500 times. I don't need to see another version of the nuclear bomb going off. I mean, or the atomic bomb going off, and we've seen it before. So, do I need to see it just for the visual? No. If it helps the storytelling, maybe. Like Terminator 2. The scene, the brilliantly shot scene that James Cameron gave us about the bomb going off in L.A. and her on the fence, that whole thing,
like kids on the playground and everything.
That scene was, I want to say necessary, but that scene was very, very important for the progression of the film. I don't know that it would necessarily have impacted the film in any way, significant way, just to have a bombing scene in there. But I do kind of get what you're saying, Tex. You shot the whole damn thing in IMAX. Why not use that a little bit? It seems like the only place where that does really make a huge difference was in the actual test itself. That's where it makes the biggest difference. But I mean, whatever. As far as just like the progression of the film is concerned, I don't think I needed it. But if you've got it, flaunt it a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't think it would have hurt the film. Is what I'm saying.
Well, and that's my point. If anybody else besides Christopher Nolan made this movie, it would not be in IMAX. But because it's Nolan and he has a history with it, I mean, the entire Dark Knight trilogy and everything. I mean, Inception was IMAX. I think Tenet was as well. I'm not for sure. He's an IMAX guy. He wants that epic cinema. He's one of those that he's a very pretentious guy. He kind of comes off that way. And I mean, and he's earned that. I mean, like I said, his credits speak for themselves. But this did not need to be an IMAX movie. How much money could they have saved just shooting this on digital, and maybe you have one IMAX scene and gone from there? You know what I mean? It was, I don't know. It could have been done for a lot cheaper.
I don't know. He's an old school guy, and I like it. God damn it.
Yeah, let's talk real quick about the runtime just for a second. You've already kind of said it, Tex. 3 hours, is it too long? What would you have cut out of this movie to make it a bit more manageable for you?
There is so much back and forth in these. I think the committee meetings, my main problem with this movie is it's very hard to follow if you don't know the history as well as some others do, because we're dealing with a non-linear timeline here. So we're showing these events, then we're cutting back to this meeting, then we're going forward, then we're going back to where he first met the Communist Party of whatever, blah blah blah. There's a lot of back and forth they could have cut out that would have trimmed down on this. It was, there's the governmental jargon back and forth. Yes, I know that's the point of the movie, but I felt like it was too much. I think that the cut that we saw in theaters should have been the unrated director's cut, and there should have been a shorter version of this movie. I think it would have been better off, because I guarantee you, not your entire audience that went to see this thing knows the who's and the what's and the how's good enough to they're going to complain that, oh, well, so-and-so didn't say this. I think you could have cut down on it, and it would have been just as good. I just, that's where I would have done it.
I don't know. Jeremy, how about you? Was the movie too long for you? Is there anything you would have cut out to make this movie a little bit shorter?
I mean, I was just sitting there thinking, to really kind of fully understand, I mean, I guess as best you can, even in 3 hours, to try to understand even just like a snippet of this guy's life. I can't really think of much that I would cut out, because I mean, like Tex said, even if you don't know, it's like at least it tries to explain kind of like the progression of like what, when he was younger to, then.
Well, it tries to explain to you, but I would say this is one of those films that has information overload. They're throwing so much at you at one time, and they're just clicking by. They're just going, and this is one of those deals that if you don't know the who's and the what's ahead of time, you're not going to be as interested, because you don't know all of these people. I didn't know Strauss. I didn't know all of these names, and I know a lot about history. I know a good bit about stuff, but there's even with somebody like myself that knows what I do, a lot of this just zooms past your head because they're just throwing it at you, expecting you to know everything. You know what I mean?
That's called rewatchability.
Is it though? I mean,
hey, you knew that
knew
that one young guy's name. What's his name? Freaking Kennedy.
Is it rewatchability or is it I have to do 6 hours of homework to understand this 3-hour movie? I would say that's what it actually is.
You don't. I mean, it's
there's no question to me that if you're a bit of a history buff, that this movie was going to hit you a bit differently. I kind of am. Specifically, I studied a lot of World War II when I was in school, but I do think this movie, if you wanted this movie cold, only knowing the simple fact that Oppenheimer ran the Manhattan Project to design the first atomic bomb, if that's all you knew going in, you would probably be interested enough to see how his life progressed. At least I like to think I would be, had I not had some prior knowledge of all this.
Well, because Frank, you showed me that guy who does the series about like biographics. Like he'll do a thing on a certain person.
Oh yeah, Simon Whistler.
Yeah, so I mean that was one of the first ones I watched when you showed me that channel. I watched the one about Oppenheimer, and I was like, yeah, he's a pretty interesting dude. I mean, if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. What he just said. He does a lot of cool stuff, and I've learned some stuff along the way from that. And it didn't. I think what we were saying too is like, when I just whenever I went to hang out with Frank one day, and he casually just asked, "Hey, you want to watch Endgame?" I'm like, yeah, sure. And the boom, 3 hours went by like it was nothing. It didn't feel like 3 hours. I mean, I don't know. I was set in this movie and I was invested in it, and I was on the edge of my seat. And again, even though I know what happened, I was still, I know where it's going, but still getting there was just, I don't want to keep saying mind blowing because I'm beating a dead horse here. But I can't really think of a whole lot to throw out there because a lot of it all kind of comes back for something at some point, from his suspected communist ties to, him being a womanizer to him, them suspecting that somebody was obviously talking to people that shouldn't have been in Los Alamos, and they were having some security issues. Yeah, man. I mean, that shit would drive, again, this would drive one person crazy. And you know what? I don't know how he did it because he kept himself intact. And when Iron Man's out here about to kill President Kennedy, I'm just saying, yikes.
He wasn't the only one. There was a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. Like I said, movies are as long as they need to be. Some movies do very well when they're an hour and a half long. Some movies do better when they're 2 hours long or 2.5 hours long. It depends on the story you're trying to tell, but more than anything else, it depends on how the movie's put together. There have been some movies that have been really long that I'm kind of like, you could have nipped a little bit of that here and there, made it a cleaner film, made it set the pacing a lot better. But there are movies that were an hour and a half long, and I'm like, good God, I want to see another hour and a half of this movie. This ends too soon. There's so much more I want. It really depends on a couple of things. Number one, again, is how the story is put together by the director and the actors and all that stuff, the writers, how this artistic thing is created. The other thing is how interested you really are in the subject matter. I am a huge history buff, so I could have watched a 5-hour-long cut of this film and probably loved every second of it. Whereas Tex is not so much of a history buff, much more of a horror fan. Maybe he's just like, I'm kind of losing interest. Yeah. That's not to say that either one of us is wrong. It's just personal taste. But I get it. It's really up to the people who are creating the thing to make sure that the movie is put together well. That's kind of the important part. And I got the link to that video that Jeremy was just talking about, that biographics video on YouTube of Oppenheimer that came out about 4 years ago. So you guys go check that out if you want. I love that guy on there, the bald British guy, Simon Whistler. I love that guy. Him and who am I thinking of? God damn it. People who you want to narrate your life, either him or let's see, Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
Or who was the other person that some people think of all the time? But anyway, or Peter Cullen, that kind of thing. In his Optimus Prime voice, of course. But,
I want the guy that does the trailers for the movies to narrate my life. The movie trailer guy, his voice.
LaFontaine.
Yeah, if they ever narrate my story, I'm hiring him to do the job.
I actually think Pat LaFontaine passed away a few years ago. I'm not entirely sure, but I know the name. His name is famous. His name is very famous.
The good ones, the good ones die young, I guess.
But
thank you for your.
But real quick before we get into some of this other stuff, I was going to kind of skip doing a favorite scene, least favorite scene in this because I don't think it was entirely necessary. But I'll go to you first, Tex. What was kind of your favorite scene and your least favorite scene before we move on to the next topic?
Well, I mean, take away the obligatory bomb scene because I think that's an easy answer. The ending of the film where Strauss, Robert Downey Jr., gets called on his shit. He's like, "Oh crap, this isn't going to go my way." the acting that Robert Downey Jr. does in that scene is like, he goes into full on Lex Luthor mode. He's like, I'm going to get you, Superman. Is kind of what he reminded me of. And he's who is that young senator from Massachusetts or wherever talking about Kennedy? Yeah, I just the way that he pulled out, I'm like, ooh. Can we make that movie now about, how Kennedy, if you want to make a history movie and have my attention, make that Kennedy movie. That's the one I do want to say. I'd go with that second. And least favorite, pick any of the other 2.5 hours of boring shit that I don't care about. Pick one of those. I don't care. Pretty easy.
Jeremy, what about you?
God, Tex doesn't like to learn stuff. That's cool. It's historically relevant. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it is a pretty dense movie. It is pretty heavy. I'm not going to disagree with him on that. I mean, it is a lot. Jeez. I'm trying to think of like a favorite scene. Like, I don't know. I want to cop out and say the bomb because I mean, it almost like it hit the right way. I mean, it was almost akin to like I know everyone's favorite trilogy of Star Wars movies was the sequels. So the moment I'm a prequels person, trust me. Don't come at me. Right?
I'm prequels.
You
all
made
day,
fun
buddy.
of us. I know. I'm like,
give me episode 1. I will love it all day. I dig that.
Like I said, you and me are on the same page on that. Thankfully, like
right.
Y'all made fun of us. You didn't know how bad it actually could have been. All right.
We've been liking this shit when it wasn't cool. Okay. Whenever,
right.
we've been crapped on for almost 2 decades for all and now you see how bad it can actually be. So
no. As soon as he comes back into the Obi-Wan show and you're all like, oh my God, and shut up. No, you didn't think he was great then. You don't get to deserve it now. Anywho.
You can't get on this train.
Yeah. The moment Admiral Holdo shoots into hyperspace and just yeets through that fucking dreadnought and it's just dead silent. I was like, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, it was kind of close to that. Right. If that's a way, if someone's seen that movie, you know what scene I'm talking about, that's kind of what that was like. So, I mean,
save that for when we break down the Star Wars movies.
Hey, if you want to do a whole thing on Star Wars, I'm here for it. Oh boy, that'd be time to bring back the old Han Solo blaster again. If y'all remember that thing, my little stream sniper. Yeah, I don't know. Least favorite? I don't know. I'm trying to like recollect the entire like 3 hours, man. There was a lot of shit that happened. Maybe it did seem. I know there's supposed to be a lot of build up. There's a lot of setup rather to get where we're trying to be. I think something that I did appreciate was that they the black and white scenes or stuff that it's like that's a different time. You can tell by some of they even changed like the hair and makeup of some of the actors to tell that it's a different time period. Like right there, you can tell like he's got gray hair. It's shorter when you see him when he's younger. I don't because Cillian Murphy is a fucking vampire. He never ages, so he has like long and like full head of hair, like dark hair. And I'm like, damn, wow, he actually looks younger somehow, even though I know he's, not. But I know every single one of you, I don't want to hear anybody praising that shit when The Walking Dead did the same thing, but y'all want to make fun of that. Like, oh, we're too stupid to understand it's a flashback. No, shut up. Don't you dare sit here and praise me like, oh my God, that was so amazing the way they did that. So that I understood it was a different time period. Then everyone's like, oh, because I want to hit on The Walking Dead because I can. It did the same thing. But I said the use of some of the visuals were, I thought was fucking cool. Because even scenes you just saw in black and white, it's like the movie's catching up to it. Because all of a sudden it'd be in color for a hot second. Like it's like we're almost about to full circle and meet at whatever point we're at. You know what I mean? So it was a good movie. Okay.
I'm kind of with Tex in my favorite scene is it wasn't just one scene. It was kind of that collection, that moment of the film towards the end where Strauss finally comes clean that it was him that kind of gave up all the dirt on Oppenheimer. You didn't realize it until that moment, but there is this kind of whodunit moment. And that's when that's when Scoob and the gang kind of tear the mask off the guy and find out it was the old man from the amusement park, and we're all really surprised. I was kind of like,
it was.
I don't know if it was something.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was. I wasn't really sure. Like as I was watching the movie, if I even cared. I just kind of naturally assumed. And again, something I didn't quite know until watching this movie and then reading about it a little bit later. That this was kind of the plan from Strauss all along, is that he was pissed at Oppenheimer for all this time, and he was like, here's my chance to take a dig at this fucker, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. And so and because up to that point in the movie, I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm like, I feel like Strauss is just one of a bunch of people that is just kind of in this thing, and this thing is happening to him the same way it's happening to a guy like Oppenheimer. But in that moment where you find out that he was the one that gave the guy the file and kind of initiated this whole thing, you see kind of his look and demeanor change in the film. Like he suddenly takes on the visage of a villain, not like that, but not the guy who rubs his hand. He's like, I'm going to get you, Bond, and all that kind of shit. But it's like he does take on that kind of the face of the villain, and another thing I really liked, especially about Robert Downey Jr.'s whole job in this film, was that moment where his aide walks in. They've had the Senate vote, and it's not gone his way. And there's that moment where Robert Downey Jr., before anybody says anything, he kind of realizes how this thing is gone, and he just very subtly says, "It didn't go our way, did it?" or something to that effect. And the guy's like, "No, it didn't." He goes, "Okay." And just like I could feel through the screen this guy wanting to just kill every living thing on this planet in that moment, but being too cool, too collected, too much of a practiced statesman or politician or a guy who's good at what he does to have that moment where he blows up and starts hitting people. But he's like, I'm going to compartmentalize this and process it because that's the kind of guy that I am. That scene right there was one of my favorite scenes. It was kind of my favorite sequence. Least favorite scene, I got to be honest, I talked about it a little bit when we did our Out of the Theater review. There was some talk about the sex scenes in this movie. The first one, a bit sudden, but I was like, okay, whatever. I mean,
jump cut. I was like, what?
Yeah, that was a bit sudden. I'm kind of glad I didn't take any of my kids to see this movie. But and then like when he goes to the hotel in San Francisco and sees it's not so much a sex scene as they're just sitting there completely naked on these two different chairs having a talk. And I'm like, I don't know why they have to be naked for this talk, but it's not really a sex scene. I was like, whatever. I've seen stranger things happen in movies while people are nude.
Yeah, that was odd.
The one that I really didn't get.
You never just sit there and talk afterward. You don't have time to put your clothes back on. Jesus.
Yeah, but I've never put it on film either.
No.
It's not like there's an atomic bomb that needs built.
Plenty of times. I've never recorded it. But the
only appropriate post-sex conversation is you pick up your cigarette and you look over at the girl and say, "Hey, honey, that sandwich ain't gonna make itself." You roll back over. You don't talk philosophical about the conscientious blah blah blah. Who gives a crap? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the one scene I didn't quite understand why it was shot the way it was shot is when they're in this little kangaroo court, backroom hearing that is going on, and Oppenheimer's talking, and his wife is behind him, and she's visualizing them having sex, and I'm thinking to myself, why is it shot like this? It's very oddly shot. It's like, it's one thing for her to, like, in her mind have this vision and then flash back to a sex scene already or something like that. That might have been a little less. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't even off-putting. I don't even know the word to describe it. It was just odd. It was oddly shot. It was oddly put in there. Because I feel like, why would you portray them, even though it's very clear in the movie that you're seeing this kind of through the mind of Emily Blunt's character? It's like, why would you portray it in the film as them having sex on this chair in front of this room full of old white men who are oblivious that it's not actually happening? It's just her and her mind.
We're not here to kink shame.
I think she was just sitting there. It was just nagging at her. Maybe it was just like she couldn't help. She couldn't help that, like that had been in her mind. I mean, we saw her when she found him, like, curled up against that rock in a fucking mess because she'd ended up.
No, I 100% get that she's sitting. I know what's happening in the scene. I just don't know why it was shot that way. I don't know why it was put on film that way.
I thought because the way she looked at her, it's almost like she was looking at it like, yeah, look, I could do this whenever I want.
And I get it. I get the metaphor. I get that moment, but it's like, I feel like that could have been done in a much different way.
It was a little weird. Maybe maybe you could have cut back to like one of the already done scenes of them scrumping in the hotel or whatever, and like right at the last second before it cuts away from the scene, she shoots a look over in the direction of Emily Blunt, and that could be that moment rather than that weirdness of them having sex in this office in front of a bunch of old white guys. The visual was weird to me. And it wasn't even like it happened real quick either. It was like slowly getting there, like when they pan around that one guy and Oppenheimer's wearing his suit, and it goes around, and all of a sudden he's naked. I was like, what are you doing? I thought it was like a metaphor. I'm like, oh, does he feel like really naked right now, like exposed? Is he just like, we try to imagine somebody in their underwear when talking? And I was like, and then all of a sudden there she is just sitting in his lap. I was like, okay, weird, but okay.
Oddly enough, that scene that you're talking about where he just appears naked all of a sudden and everything else, that reminded me of in Watchmen where what's his face? Night Owl? Yeah, Night Owl and the girl Silk Spectre or whatever. They're like in that dream kind of landscape or whatever, and they're like, you see them for a second and they're in costume, and then they kiss, and then like you see they're just naked all of a sudden, and then you see the bomb going off in the background. It very much reminded me of that scene as well, with the subject matter of the film. I did think that was kind of.
They could have done that, just like kiss an atomic bomb, boom,
right?
Random.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just like that shot out of or not just like, but similar to that shot out of Watchmen.
I mean, it's like that whole time you're watching him get like torn apart by these guys, and she's in that corner. Right. You can tell she's not okay with it either. I mean, you got to give it to her. She was still sticking with him, and I love when it cuts back. Every once in a while, she's like, "You shook his fucking hand. What the fuck is wrong with you, dude?" Like, she's kind of like, "Hey, like, get it the fuck together, dude." But you could tell it's still weighing on her fucking mind.
He did appear to be kind of a bitch at the end of this movie. I got to be honest. He just took it. He just,
Well, if you think about it, the guy literally just gave humanity the means to destroy itself.
Yeah,
I don't care who you are. That's a pretty weighty thing, especially for somebody who's very cerebral and intellectual, like a guy like Oppenheimer. I mean, these guys are really deep thinkers. So to know what he knows about what he just did,
he has to know that, like, that's gonna weigh on your fucking brain,
but
man.
I'm sorry, but Oppenheimer knew what he was building and what it was going to be used for. So once it's used, you can't all of a sudden grow a conscience and feel bad about all the years of work you just did. That's not how that works. I can't shoot you in the face. It just. I
don't think he was troubled by the work he did. I think he was troubled by what it would mean. Because
now it's no longer in his hands now. That's the
from what I've read, Oppenheimer, even about making the bomb, wasn't that upset about it all. He really wanted it to be a forerunner to things like nuclear energy and things like that. He didn't want it to, and he even talks about this later in the movie. He didn't want proliferation of these weapons at all. And he wasn't even fond of like the U.S. making a bunch of them to have in a warehouse just in case.
Kalashnikov didn't make that rifle for that purpose either. But hey, look at what we're doing.
Yeah, he didn't make this because he wanted the U.S. to have a bunch of bombs. He wanted this to open up a whole new field of scientific study. But the government doing what the government does. I'm not saying that I'm not U.S. bashing here. Any government would have done this. They were the ones that were just like, actually, we see a whole other use for this. And he's like, that's not really what I was envisioning. I have a problem with that part of it. So he wasn't really talking about not making more bombs as much as he was not proliferating them and using this atomic research he's done for lots of other things. But it seemed like all the U.S. wanted to do was just build more bombs. That was
the point. Was like anyone is like, if we don't do it, someone else is going to, and they're probably gonna, like you said, anyone would have done the same thing. So your hands are kind of tied that you want to get this done before anyone else tries to do something with it. But I get it, because he's like, this has more uses, right? Like we could use this for something good, or maybe some alternate history, like a certain game series. Even though that still ended in a bad way. But I'm saying, essentially, if that's the thing, I'm like, Fallout is kind of what could have happened, at least until it got bad, because as we know, war never changes. But
I mean, hell,
we could have had nice things. Damn it!
Look at it in today's scope. We have the internet. We have the ability to access any information in the world that we want. And what is it mainly used for? Porn and arguing. That's kind of the basis of what the internet revolves around. So, for Oppenheimer to be the smartest man ever, he's so smart, they let him get away with the adultery. They let him get by with whatever he wants, because he's the smartest guy in the world, right? Nobody bats an eye. Even the husband that he cucks out, he's the smartest guy, we have to leave him there. He would have known the government is going to take what I've helped build here and apply it to serve their own needs, even up to that. So, yes, whenever it's took out of his hands, at that point, there's nothing they can do. But at that, he should have known who he was dealing with before that, is my whole point. You know what I'm saying? Government is only good for one thing, serving itself. He should have known that. Even the idiots know that.
But, I do want to touch, before we get too far from this, before we get on to my last topic, before we get on to the trivia, I do want to go into the chat for a couple of things. Let's see. Dark Sage 9117 watching us on Twitch. What's going on, Dark Sage? He said he did not like how, once again, that they had to shoehorn in Germany as the main reason why they were building the bomb. Germany in 1940 had already given up on the atomic bomb development. It was, in fact, the Soviets we were racing to see who would get the bomb first. But, of course, it seemed like all these movies, fiction or biopic, they have to shoehorn Germany in to be the big bad and will not ever go with the Soviets. I get it. Well, I think that you have to in one...
It's not like they invaded Poland or some dumb shit.
Yeah. Well, approaching it from what we knew at the time, we knew that that Germany was trying a lot of different things, and one of them was dealing with atomic stuff. I don't know. I would have to research it a little bit more to know for sure. I don't know exactly what we knew about their atomic program as far as how far along they were at that point in the war, early on in the war. We know in hindsight from all the research and everything that's happened since then that Germany was never really that close. Hitler had guys looking for the Holy Grail and shit like that. No, that is not just a plot of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That legit was a thing.
He just got that spear of destiny, by God. It could have changed everything.
He really did think that he was going to pray his way to victory over the Allies, but
yeah,
in a way. But yeah, I don't know off the top of my head what we knew at the time. Now, was it definitely more about the Soviets in the end? Yeah. You could sprinkle in the whole idea of, did we need to drop it against Japan? Were they going to capitulate and surrender soon or not? I don't know. I wasn't there. I've always just kind of been under the assumption that there was not really a good answer, that dropping it was going to cost a lot of lives, not dropping it was going to cost a lot of lives. It really was kind of a pick your poison kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know exactly what we knew at the time. So I mean,
Well,
yeah,
I think they were-
I do think that it is really easy to make, Germans bad guys in the 1940s.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you think about it, we just a week or so ago talked about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Doofery, whatever the hell was going on, and even in that, it seems like that franchise has kind of always been at its best when Indiana Jones is going up against the Nazis.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's one of the main reasons why they kind of made the bad guy in the late 1960s a Nazi, was because you have to progress the Indiana Jones character to how old Harrison Ford actually is, but you got to find a way to make Nazis the bad guy because everybody hates Nazis and because Indiana Jones is always best against the Nazis, and so they kind of figured out a way to kind of make it make sense in that world, not in real life, but in that world. So yeah, I mean, it really is kind of becoming a bit of a trope to make Nazis the bad guys in any movie.
Oh, Nazis are bad guys, but
yeah, but I think towards the end of the movie they do focus a lot more on the race to build a bigger and better bomb that we were in with the Russians and probably still are. At that point, at the end of the movie, after World War II, it ended. So
is the Cold War really over?
No,
it's never really over.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever really going to be over. But I mean, whatever. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I everything you say is valid. I just don't know what we knew at the time, right off the top of my head. You know what I mean?
And again, information didn't travel as fast. So
oh yeah, I mean,
and you're talking about intelligence on one of your enemy in the Axis powers. You're like, well, they might be doing this. We don't know.
Yeah, think of it this way. I mean, like when 9/11 happened, we knew that it happened like 5 minutes after.
Yeah.
When Pearl Harbor was bombed, there were some people in America that didn't even know it happened until a week after it happened.
Right.
I mean, wrap that around your mind. I mean, two of the most significant events in U.S. history, at least, and one of them we knew about 5 minutes after it happened. How we pretty much watched everything, the last 90% of it happened live on TV.
Yep.
And then Pearl Harbor, it's like some people, because media was different, because word didn't travel as fast, some people until one of them managed to get to a newspaper or a radio or something like that the information traveled differently. So and of course information is maintained differently as well. I mean, there is still stuff that is held as top secret from World War I and World War II that we don't declassify for reasons that I don't fully understand. But I mean,
there's probably would be a reason for it.
Yeah, I'm sure if we knew what it was, we might.
Because that's where they had the aliens.
Yeah, that's where they had the aliens.
Hey, they already talked about it today. They confirmed it. Aliens are probably a thing. So,
but yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's again, Nazis bad guys. It's kind of that's one of the reasons why I hate it when one politician calls another one literally a Nazi. He's literally Hitler. No, he's not.
No, stop.
Everybody's a Nazi. If you're
they were kind of kind of the ultimate bad guys in world history. So it's like whenever you want to make somebody sound worse, you just draw that comparison. And I think that Nazis are sexier bad guys in cinema than anybody else is. I mean, for the most part.
The only thing worse than that is when somebody goes, "You're literally Hitler." I've heard that on the internet a handful of times. Like, do you literally know what Hitler did? Like, I don't. You need to go back home and not talk because you're stupid.
All right, fine. I'm gonna go down to my bunker.
I'm not literally Hitler. I'm Mexican. He didn't like me either. He didn't like us either. So I don't know what you guys are. I don't know why you're bitching about. But let's get on to some of the trivia now that I'm pretty sure. Well, no, I got one more thing I want to talk about. Jeremy, what are the chances of this movie basically just cleaning house at the next Oscars? I mean, I generally don't give a shit about the Oscars, but when you got a movie like this that comes along, there is a certain something in the air that says this movie might roll in there and just dominate. I mean, do you see this? I mean, which ones do you think it's going to stand a better chance at?
I mean, I definitely can see it. Again, from down to, like I said, the use of sound, the visuals, of course, the acting. There's a lot of potential here. Like, I think what you said on, do we even call it Twitter anymore, or is it just called X now, or what the hell?
I don't know. It's that thing on the internet that I type shit in to piss people off.
Yeah, whatever the fuck Elon Musk did this fucking week in history. Whatever that anonymous social media website is called. I think Frank said something about like, yeah, Barbie can make all the money she wants, but like this thing is gonna win some fucking awards. Like that's whatever side you want to be on, take it for what it is. But like I definitely see the potential here. That again, like I said earlier, it speaks for itself. Like I would not be shocked if we saw that come up.
Yeah, Tex, how about you? I mean, do you see this movie winning a lot of awards, and which one do you think is kind of a lock?
I'm not an Oscars guy. Like, I don't pay attention to the awards. It's never been my thing. But I don't see how it doesn't win. I mean, from Christopher Nolan, best directing. I could see a best film. I could see Robert Downey. Okay, technically, Cillian Murphy was the star, so that would make Robert Downey Jr. supporting, right?
Mm-hmm. Supporting actor, yeah.
So I could see both of them being nominated at the very least. I could see Robert Downey Jr. winning it. I mean, considering I don't know a lot of other Oscar contenders, that are in the running, I don't really see anything beating it right now. Clean sweep, possibly. Sound design, whatever. But the big ones, yeah, I could see Oppenheimer killing it.
Yeah, I think some of the technical awards this movie is going to kind of run away with. I mean, I think that's going to be pretty easy. I mean, Nick from Lost River Drive was like, "Oh, Barbie's going to win some awards too," and I'm like, "Yeah, they might win some like design awards or something like that." But I mean, I'm sorry, but Greta Gerwig is not going to win Best Director for Barbie.
No.
All respect to Greta Gerwig.
Well, I
she made a couple
don't
of good movies, but she's not winning.
That film, is down with the patriarchy, so they might sneak out a few awards too. So,
well,
can tell.
I mean, just right now as I sit here, I think a couple of different things. Number one is that Christopher Nolan's going to win Best Director. I don't know that there's a movie out there that comes close to this. Right now, there is another 4 months left in Oscar season, and we don't know. Well, we know what's coming out between now and December 31st, but I mean, we don't know how good it's going to be. So maybe something comes along and blows it away. I don't know. Cillian Murphy, I think, is a lock to be nominated. I don't know what the field's going to look like. I think he's probably the front runner right now for me for Best Actor, but that could get pretty close. So again, we'll see what comes out later in the fall. Remember, the fall is considered a Oscar season because you're releasing your movie in that window, but it's closer to the Oscars. So hopefully the little bit of recency bias will help some of those films. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. You got a lot to make up for if you're coming up after Oppenheimer. I honestly, right now, I can imagine that both Robert Downey Jr. and maybe Matt Damon are going to be nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I got to be honest. I don't see anybody other than Robert Downey Jr. winning it. To me, there are two locks in the Oscars as of right now. That's Christopher Nolan as Best Director and Robert Downey Jr. as Strauss. I cannot put enough emphasis.
That's a good shot
on how good he really is. And you mentioned it earlier, Jeremy. There's been this thing about Robert Downey Jr. where great in the MCU, obviously, is Tony Stark and Iron Man. But when he's tried to step out of the MCU, he's had some mixed results. Doolittle, not a good movie. I actually like that movie he did with the Judge with why am I drawing a blank? Robert Duvall. I actually think that was a really good movie. I think it's really unfair, and even I'm kind of guilty of this. Since the first Iron Man, it's been hard to look at Robert Downey Jr. in anything and not see Tony Stark. This movie completely fucking blew that out of the water. I was not thinking Marvel or MCU or Tony Stark at all in this movie. Not at all.
I was still just trying to believe that it's Robert Downey Jr. under all like the makeup, the fucking just everything. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah. And then I was like, this dude can fucking do it. You know what I mean? No doubt.
He 100% just steals every part of this movie.
That look he's giving you right now, it's like, you just fucked yourself, kid. And I'm I don't need to come over and swing at you, but it's like, just know you fucked up.
Yeah, he is just damn good. I honestly think that Best Director and Best Supporting Actor are already done. I'm not 100% convinced that Emily Blunt's going to win Best Actress. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that she was that good. I don't know that she was that plentiful in the movie. Certainly, I mean, she was certainly good, but was she good enough to where there is no other 2 or 3 jobs out there that I think she's head and shoulders above? Nomination, maybe.
Well, the problem with her the problem with her in this film is there's so many other good acting performances that leaves her in the dust. I mean, she was fine in this movie, but it wasn't, oh my God, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, Gary Oldman level. You know, so with as many heavy hitters as there were, there's only so much, sunshine to go around. Somebody's going to be left behind.
I mean,
I also think it's possible that Florence Pugh gets a nomination. I don't quite know.
Maybe
possible. If I had to decide between Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt getting a nomination, I would obviously go Emily Blunt. I think she was more significant in the movie, but the performances are very different. And Florence Pugh was awfully damn good. So
yeah,
I don't know that
if she had pulled a Sharon Stone, you know what I'm saying? She's definitely getting that award. But
that wasn't good enough for you, Jesus Christ. They was up under the damn table. Fucking hell.
Hey, I'm just saying, she's not Sharon Stone. That's all I'm saying.
The first got okay, Stu Mocker. The first time I saw Cillian Murphy was in 28 Days Later, and he flat out had his dick out in that movie too. So I was just like, he was butt naked as a jaybird. He was. Hey, Resident Evil did the same damn thing with Mila Jovovich, and I'm like, I don't know what this trend is. You wake up naked in a zombie apocalypse, but I mean, I guess sure. I don't know.
Sex sells, Jay. Sex sells.
I guess
you played enough zombie games to know the longer you play, you acquire clothing and weapons. That's just how it works. It's just they're doing it in movies.
Yeah, start that way. Christ's sake, at least had something.
Yeah, but and then obviously there's some of the technical awards. I mean, like best writing. It might win something for writing. I can imagine it's probably going to be nominated for that. Visual effects, special effects, probably going to get nominated for that kind of stuff. Different things. So the technical awards, it's probably going to do well in. But like the major awards, best director, best picture, I honestly don't see anything coming close to this as best picture either. Sorry, there's nothing out there that hits all the buttons the way this movie does. So I'm looking at 4 or 5 easy right now, probably another couple technical ones. And there's an outside shot that it does sweep the awards. I don't think it's going to happen. I think sweeping the major awards is going to be a bit of a stretch, but there's 3 solid wins in here, maybe 4. So I don't know. We'll see.
Has Christopher Nolan ever won an Oscar before?
I don't think so. Look, I don't think so. I think he's been nominated for a couple. I don't know at what level though. Awards.
Well, I know The Dark Knight. Got a few nominations, mainly for Heath Ledger. But
Heath Ledger got his for sure.
Nolan has been nominated for 5 Academy Awards, 5 BAFTAs, 6 Golden Globes.
Okay.
Blah, 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 blah.
Well, he's no slouch. So I mean,
in 2012, he became the youngest director to receive his footprints in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater, which is interesting.
Nice.
Let's see. Let me go to see if he's actually won anything. Academy Awards, no. He got nominated in 2002 for Memento for Best Original Screenplay, didn't win. He got nominated in 2011 for Best Picture and Best Screenplay for Inception, didn't win. He got nominated in 2018 for Best Picture and Best Director for Dunkirk and didn't win. Dunkirk was good, too.
Yeah.
Dunkirk was awfully good. Let's see. The AFI. He's won a bunch of AFIs. He won Screenwriter of the Year for Memento. He won Movies of the Year for Dark Knight, Inception, Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar, and Dunkirk. So those are the AFIs, which are not the Oscars, but they're fairly important.
I was sleeping on Tenet, I'm telling you. My God.
You know what though, Tenet, it's really, really sad. Tenet was one of those movies that got kind of buried by the pandemic.
I know.
It's really, really unfortunate.
I couldn't get into Tenet. I tried. It wasn't.
Dude, that shit blew my mind.
I didn't like that. I also didn't like what's the one he did with McConaughey, Interstellar or whatever it was.
Interstellar was interesting. It was a bit for itself.
I'm not a Nolan guy. Honestly, anything past the Dark Knight trilogy, I'm whatever. Inception is it's whatever. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not a Nolan guy.
Yeah, London Film Critics, MTV Movie Awards, like those have ever really mattered. Let's see.
MTV hasn't mattered since like 1987, man. So
I'm gonna say the whole thing MTV is good for is pregnant teens and trash people.
Rob Dyrdek.
Well, he has won several Scream Awards, Tech. So
Oh yeah.
He won best screenplay and best director in 2005 for Batman Begins. Best screenplay. I don't know why. He won the same awards plus best comic book movie and the ultimate Scream for The Dark Knight. In 2010, he won a bunch for Inception, and in 2021, he won best science fiction movie for Tenet.
Yeah, I mean, go back and watch Batman Begins. I mean, once Scarecrow lets that fear toxin go, there's some pretty horrific scenes, at the end of that movie. I can see why.
Yeah, but a bunch of different awards and stuff. But yeah, he's never actually won an Oscar. I think that's going to change this year. But I don't know. Go down the comments and let us know what you guys think. Do you guys think he's gonna get nominated? I think he's kind of a lock for best director at this point. I'll have to look and see exactly what movies are going to be eligible this year, but I'm pretty sure that this is pretty much a lock. But let's move in now into a little bit of trivia. Not a whole lot of trivia about this because the movie is still relatively young. Not a lot of stuff has come out. But there are some fairly interesting things. Did you know, Jeremy, that in order for the black and white, where am I thinking I'm clicking on here? In order for the black and white sections of the movie to be shot of the same quality as the rest of the film, Kodak developed the first ever black and white film stock for IMAX.
Oh shit!
I'm willing to bet a good portion of this $100 million budget went towards film because IMAX isn't cheap.
I nerd out about shit like that. That's so fucking cool. Like, I mean, you go back and look at like as we were talking about Dark Knight. I mean, like what? There was 4, like if there were 5 IMAX cameras in the entire world at that point, he had 4 of them, and he broke like 3 or some shit. You know what I mean?
Didn't he break at least one of those cameras?
Oh, he definitely. I think broke more than one.
I think he broke one filming this. Yeah.
I don't doubt it. I mean, to be fair, I think they broke it like shooting the scene with the Batmobile with the tumbler and the Batmobile. No. So to be fair.
Yeah, the Batpod scene,
Yeah. So, I mean, but I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna be mad if he's the one who broke it. I'm kind of just like, nah, you.
Does he like own stock in IMAX or something? He must own something on the back end. Like
he doesn't.
Is he a partner?
That's so cool. That's what I love. I was like, I don't know. There is something weirdly crisp about those black and white scenes. It felt kind of grainy, but like it still felt, like it just went along. Yeah, like that. Like
I don't think this picture does the actual quality of the film.
No. I was like, I know this is a picture of a picture, probably, but like, man. Yeah,
I don't think that needs to be IMAX though. It's a guy sitting on a couch. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
that is Robert Downey Jr. on a couch.
Okay, even Robert Downey Jr. on a couch does not constitute the budget for an IMAX film. Save that for Mission Impossible.
Yeah. But right there in his hands. Somebody edit that. Put the little award right there in his hand. That's what. Yeah, you're saying that, but he's gonna be sitting there with an award in his fucking hands.
I will get on that for award season.
And then right,
just
right
make that the thumbnail.
That, put a little text bubble. Put a little text bubble that says "I am Iron Man," just for the hell of it, just to be an ass.
Or you can just put like "I am inevitable" or some shit. That'd be so funny.
My Oscar is inevitable.
No. Strauss. He just fucking snaps.
He's got the Iron. Put the Iron Man gauntlet on his hand, holding the Oscar. That's what needs to be done. There's your money ticket right there, buddy.
That would be kind of a cool shot. Let's see. Did you guys know that Matt Damon was on a break from acting as a promise to his wife with one condition? It would go on hold if Christopher Nolan called. As luck would have it, Nolan offered Damon the role of Leslie Groves, and Matt Damon's acting break went on hold.
Well,
there you go.
Good job, Private Ryan. You're back in the game.
I can't imagine that it was very time consuming for him to shoot his scenes, though.
No,
I mean it wasn't a lot of special effects, just costume. A lot of stuff on sound stages or on set. It could have taken that long. Let me go look. I don't know how long it took to film this.
He had scenes at Los Alamos, the Kangaroo Court, and the train. That was basically most of his stuff.
And then, like, maybe when they were going around trying to convince all the other scientists to come to Los Alamos in the first place. But other than that, yeah, you're right.
Well, yeah, but I'm including that with the train portion because it's kind of where it happened.
Three big scenes, basically.
Yeah.
and just a little bit of different makeup in the kangaroo court because obviously he was supposed to be a little bit older in that moment.
Well,
but, yeah.
I thought Matt Damon did very well in this movie, but he didn't. Like I said, he's another one that doesn't. He's not going to get the attention because there's so many other good portrayals in this movie.
So this movie was only in principal photography for like 5 months.
It's not bad.
It started. Let me make sure I got that date right.
I will say Matt Damon did have me laughing a few times. He was kind of a good comic relief.
It said pre-production was underway in January of 2022. Filming wrapped in May of 2022. So I would imagine most of that there was some photography going. So principal photography for 6 months.
Yeah.
5 months. If it started in early January and wrapped at the end of May, 5 months. That's not bad. I mean, so he probably wasn't on set for terrible long.
Nah.
But yeah, I did think that was kind of funny because I was like, if you're going to take a break, you may as well. Fine, but if if Christopher Nolan calls you and he's like, "Hey, you want to be in this movie that is obviously going to be a banger?" You're like, "Honey, so that trip we were going to plan on Disney World, can we push that back to like the spring?"
Where's my army suit?
Honey, where's my army suit?
He's got all the time to go to Disneyland now because ain't nobody filming Jack Diddley squat. So he got his break.
So let's see. Also, during an interview with reporter David Martin on CBS Sunday Morning in July, earlier this month, director Christopher Nolan pointed out that the entire reel of IMAX film stock used for the production is 11 miles long and weighs 600 pounds.
Yes, sir.
They had to produce a new reel to hold this film because all of the existing reels would break under the weight of the film.
I told you it's a heavy film, damn it.
It's a heavy film.
Man.
Now, Tex would have cut that down by about 6 or 7 miles, but that's okay.
Yes, I would. I could have saved them a whole bunch of money, but ain't nobody gonna listen to me. So everybody else is too busy with Christopher Nolan's balls on their chin right now. So y'all just keep going, keep doing your thing. So.
That's fine.
You know what? For a movie like this, I will take Christopher Nolan balls on my chin.
Yeah.
Clip that, TSS. Clip it.
I was going to say, clip that and edit it. We're going to have fun with that one. That one's going to be fun.
Let's see. The SAG-AFTRA strike that actually just started recently, it still had an impact on this film. The cast actually left the UK premiere after the SAG-AFTRA strike was announced, leaving Christopher Nolan alone to address the audience. They walked out in the middle of the UK premiere because the strike started.
Now, did they film all of his interviews in IMAX? Because that's obviously needed for Christopher
I hope
Nolan.
so. To make it 11.1 miles.
Right. He needs anything less than 10 miles of IMAX footage is not good enough for Mr. Nolan. So we're going to need to treat him extra special.
See, also, this is the 6th collaboration between Cillian Murphy and Christopher Nolan after Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Inception, The Dark Knight Rises, and Dunkirk. Although they previously collaborated together in 5 other movies, this is the first time Murphy plays the lead role in a Christopher Nolan film. And boy, did he ever pick a first one.
Yeah.
Again, he's probably gonna win Best Actor for this one. So not a bad time to kind of come out of your shell for Christopher Nolan. You know what I mean?
Go out with a bang,
Yeah, no doubt. Let's see, TSS thought I was kidding. Clip that, TSS. Send it to Drew. I'm sure he can use it on one of his gaming streams. I wish I had a picture of him. I didn't think to get one, but I'll put another one of Robert Downey Jr. up here just for shits and giggles. This is Josh Hartnett's first World War II movie since Pearl Harbor, which co-starred Matt Damon's best friend Ben Affleck.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure that was Hartnett when I first saw him. I'm like, wait a minute. I know this
honestly,
guy.
it took me a minute. It took me a minute.
Did.
I'm not gonna lie.
I don't know if it's the hair, they did makeup, or he's just aged. And I think the last time I saw him was in one of the Sin City movies. So it's been a while, but I did not recognize Josh Hartnett in this movie at first.
Yeah, but I thought it was cool to see him in there. Another little interesting piece of news about Josh Hartnett is The casting of Hartnett makes an interesting full circle moment for him, as he was one of the 3 finalists to play Batman in Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins back in 2005.
Yep.
But he respectfully declined the role, later going on to say that he regretted the decision, as he is a huge admirer of Nolan's work as a filmmaker and wished to build a creative relationship with him. The film, ironically enough, hit theaters on July 21st, 2023, which just so happened to be Hartnett's birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. I like Josh Hartnett. He's doing a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
I don't see him as Batman. I mean, I've seen a lot of Josh Hartnett stuff, from The Craft to Halloween H2O to, I mean, just so many things that he's done. I don't see a Batman there. I don't think so.
It would have been interesting to see him as Batman. It would have been interesting. I like that we ended up getting Christian Bale, and I like what those movies ended up being for the most part. But it would have been interesting to see him in the role. I think it could have been a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. This whole thing actually kind of partially came from the mind of Cillian Murphy. Christopher Nolan came with the idea to cast Cillian Murphy, came to him while looking at the book cover photo of Robert J. Oppenheimer on American Prometheus, the book upon which the film was based. Wanting to achieve Oppenheimer's gaunt physique, Murphy lost weight and kept to a strict diet during filming. Not only that, but the book was given to Nolan as a gift by Murphy.
Ah, nice.
Wow. So maybe he was like, "Hey, you should make this movie, and doesn't he look like me?" Like he kind of laid the
I mean, to be fair,
like that.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Breaking news: actor wants to.
He shows up with the little fedora hat on, be like, "Hey, see this? See me? See that? See this? See me?"
I mean, some of those shots of like him with the hat and like the tobacco pipe, I was like, God damn, he looks just like him. Yeah.
Right. I think you gotta just get. Yeah, that's all you got to do.
Yeah, I have rarely seen someone who looks the part the way that Cillian Murphy does in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some guy, for biopics, it is really important. You want to get somebody who kind of fits the general, kind of has a little bit of the swagger, things like that. So I've seen a lot of guys play Kennedy. Not a lot of guys have played Kennedy well. You know what I mean? But when you're playing a historical figure, you do need someone that kind of carries their presence a little bit, or at least can on camera. And I cannot think of really anybody off the top of my head. I'd have to go through and probably really examine a lot of biopics, but I would really have to do a deep dive to figure out if there's anybody who fits the role as well or better than Cillian Murphy in this movie. There's been a few that I'm like, man, this guy's really good in this role. I really did like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Aviator as Howard Hughes. I feel like you could have gotten somebody else. He didn't quite look like Howard Hughes to me, but he was really good in it. The movie was good.
I like Joaquin Phoenix as Johnny Cash. Damn it! It's not about
fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, I think I would have to agree with that. Well, his Joaquin Phoenix, Johnny Cash is spot on. I mean,
it's a pretty good.
Yeah, obviously not quite the singing, but and another one. Who's the guy that plays Loki? Tom
Hiddleston.
Hiddleston? Yeah, Tom Hiddleston. He played Hank Williams Sr. in a Hank Williams Sr. movie that didn't get a lot of attention in a biopic, but he was spot on for Hank Williams Sr. If y'all had looked that up, he looks, I mean, dead even for who he was.
Well, I guess to be fair, we can't say what's that guy's name? He's like super method actor.
Jared Leto?
No.
Yeah, Leto?
No, he played he played Abraham Lincoln in a movie.
Oh.
Damn,
you know what I'm talking about?
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like when he does it, he fucking
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
It's kind of unfair to say him because he just knocks it out of the park every single time.
Yeah.
So maybe him, he does pretty well.
Maybe that's a good video topic for later on. Who plays in a biopic that really just kind of fits the role? I mean, Jamie Foxx and Ray, I thought was awesome.
True.
There's probably several of them out there that are good, but it's tough to find anybody at this level. That's just my point of view. But one more piece of trivia that I'm sure is going to spark a little bit of interest. Jeremy, why don't you break down for us real quick kind of what the motif of your cosplay is today? For those who may not understand exactly what the whole wrist getup is.
Well, I think this kind of started as like because the last 4 reviews I've worn some sort of shirt and tie, and I'm like, these are getting kind of melded, and I'm like, I need to make it stand out a little bit because otherwise I'm just gonna be wearing a shirt and tie every damn movie review. Because now I'm thinking with Haunted Mansion, I'm like, ah shit, I'm gonna wear like a nice little vest and top hat and crap. I'm like, Christ, I can't get away from this. So it started out as I'm like, I tried the suspenders to add in and the tie, of course, and then I was like, I don't know what else. I can't wear a hat with it because of this. So I started thinking, well, okay, obviously we're talking about atomic bombs. So my first thought was one of my favorite game series, Fallout. And I definitely didn't spend, all that money for basically a meme because we never thought Fallout 4 was going to happen. But when they did, and they knocked it out of the fucking park. So this right here, which it's so goddamn unwieldy. I don't know how they do this. So this is called your Pit Boy. This is basically your whole, your status, your inventory, your map, your radio, which is the most important part when you're, going around the atomic wasteland. And yeah, these are haunted cave things that are absolutely caked with fake blood. But I tried my best to look through them. I mean, that was kind of the last minute edition. Because, you don't want to look at the, that's, fun fact, if anyone knows why the Vault Boy is actually doing that, there's a legitimate reason. When you're looking at a nuclear explosion, if you close your one eye and you put your thumb out, if your thumb covers the mushroom cloud, you're a safe distance away. You're good. So pretty goddamn far. You need to be that far away. So yeah, what better thing to tie into it other than Fallout? And obviously, I have my definitely not Nuka-Cola in a glass bottle. You hear that? That's real. That's real. So yeah, this is your all important. You need this thing, and I don't have a vault suit. I would have worn that too, but yeah, this is.
We'll work on that for the next radiation-based review.
If they ever make that Fallout TV series, I'll definitely be wearing one by that point.
I do at some point want to do threads. Me and Tex have been talking about that for a while now. I do at some point want to do threads. That's gonna be some kind of review. But the reason I bring that up is because do you know that J. Robert Oppenheimer has a connection in Hollywood?
Well,
not just a movie that had been made about him. He actually has a connection. And that is Alan Oppenheimer. You see him right there on the left. Mm-hmm. Alan Oppenheimer has been around. Let's see. He has been in such live action things going all the way back to the 60s. He's an American actor. He's performed numerous roles in live action television since the 1960s. And he has had an active career doing voice work since the 1970s. Some of his live action things that he's done, he's been in Hogan's Heroes, The $6 Million Man. He was Ralph Malph's father in a couple episodes of The Happy Days. He was in Saint Elsewhere. He was in Mama's Family, which I still think is one of the funniest TV shows ever made. He was in he played 3 different characters in 3 different Star Trek series. He played in both Star Trek The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. And then in the 70s got into voice acting, where he's been in everything from He-Man, the Transformers, the Smurfs. He was a narrator in a couple parts of the Neverending Story film that came out in the early 80s. He has voiced Alfred in a couple of DC animated things. He has also done some video games, Jeremy. Did you know this?
I can't imagine which video game we're going to talk about.
He did the voices for Soldier of Fortune, God of War 2, and Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. Not to mention he had he was the old man or something like that in Toy Story 4. So this is Oppenheimer's, I think, third cousin, as I was reading, if I was reading it right. So yeah, so there is an Oppenheimer active in Hollywood right now, and he is still active. Not to mention he's also been on things like, let's see, he was in the Heat of the Night, the film that came out in the 1960s. He was in Little Big Man in 1970, which is a pretty good movie. Let's see, Helter Skelter in 1976, the original Freaky Friday in 1976. Let's see, he was in Private Benjamin in 1980. He had a small role, which is a really funny movie. He was the uncredited narrator in the Neverending Stories, Secret of the Sword. Then he got into He-Man in the 80s, He-Man, Little Nemo, The Adventures of Slumberland. Let's see, what else is he in? Secret Life of Bees. He did some voices. He played Alfred. He did the voice for Alfred in Batman, Superman, Public Enemies. He was in that movie Foxcatcher, which is a really, really good movie. For those of you who have never seen Steve Carell do some dramatic stuff, he is really good in that movie. Chippendales Rescue Rangers, he's done some voices for, not to mention, so you're going back to the 60s again, Get Smart, The Andy Griffith Show, The Mod Squad. I mean, the guy's been around. The Partridge Family, let's see, McCloud, The Jimmy Stewart Show, Bonanza, Here's Lucy, Butch Cat, Bewitched, the Scooby-Doo movies. He did some voice stuff in that. Let's see, some other stuff. I don't know, just a whole lot of stuff. I mean, the guy's been around. He's had a few. The original Hawaii Five-0 TV series. Let's see, The New Adventures of Flash Gordon, Lone Ranger. Let's see. Yeah, he played Mayor Tutwiler, Tex in Mama's Family. Which now that I haven't seen Mama's Family in a long time, but I used to watch it.
Mayor.
I thought he was funny as hell.
I'm trying to remember. I think he was like a major recurring character. Like you saw him every once in a while on that show. Mama's Family was one of them shows I grew up on. It was always on my TV at night.
Me too. That show was funny as hell.
That was one of them shows that it was always on my grandparents' TV. Like that, Green Acres, Andy Griffith, all them shows like that. Just, good TV back in the day.
He voiced a couple of different characters in Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters, one of the better Ghostbusters animated things from the late 80s.
True.
That was cool, yeah. Good toy line, too.
Batman, the animated series. He did not play Alfred. He had some other random voices in there, but he was in that. Let's see. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. Not to mention, let's see. In 2021, he did Moss Man in Masters of the Universe Revelation, the one that Kevin Smith did for Netflix. Nice. And last year, he played King Grayskull in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So yeah, the guy's been around. Not to mention again, video games. I mean, let's see, some of the ones I didn't. Nox, I don't know what Nox is. Baldur's Gate, I know that game. I didn't play it, but I know that game. Let's see, a couple of Star Trek games, Earth and Beyond. He played Harold and Cult Ghoul Thug and Cult Ghoul Soldier in Fallout Tactics: Brotherhood of Steel.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see, Baldur's Gate again, God of War 2. The Bourne Conspiracy video game, Tom Clancy's End War, Fallout 4. He was Paladin Brandis.
Oh, because I'm like, I bet you he was in 4. He had to have been.
He's got a huge career then. This guy's spanning decades.
The guy's been, 1960s. His earliest credit was for TV was 63 for film, 64 for TV. His first official credits in uncredited roles. But
that's I'd rather have that kind of career than have like one big movie than you don't do anything else in Hollywood ever again, like so many people have. You know what
I mean? They did that shit on purpose. Like he's in the Fallout series. I mean, what? We were talking about.
I'm surprised he didn't have a role in this movie. You know what I mean?
I kind of was too, but as I was looking into it, one role he did have was there was a movie that came out called Fat Man and Little Boy back in 89 or 90 that kind of talks about the basically just kind of what happened at Los Alamos, about the Manhattan Project, not really bookended by Oppenheimer's life the way this film was, but it was just about the creation of the bomb. He actually had a voice credit in that as well, where he played the PA announcer, kind of like the PA announcer from like MASH, has kind of become famous all on his own. But he was the PA announcer from that. So it's kind of interesting that an Oppenheimer descendant was actually in that movie. It is kind of a bummer that they didn't have him at least like in a scene, dressed as a general or something like that. Would have been kind of a cool little nugget, little Easter egg.
Maybe he could have been that super old dude who was sitting in the corner in that like kangaroo court, that really old guy who was kind of
that would have been cool.
He could have been that guy or something. Sitting across.
How many people were in that room that said nothing? He could have been there. He could have been anywhere in this.
One of the advisors or something. Yeah.
he could have been one of the scientists at Los Alamos whenever they dropped the bomb. That could have been a cool scene.
Or he could have been one of the people at the school or university or something. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I remember seeing him in Knight Rider as well. He was in a couple episodes of that because one of the things I did during the pandemic is I just kind of went back through on all the streaming services and blew through some of the 70s and 80s TV stuff. And I went through Chips, Knight Rider, and a bunch of other stuff. And I remember actually seeing him in a couple episodes of Knight Rider as well. So yeah, I mean, he's got it. Oppenheimer's have a connection in Hollywood.
Because I'm like, Tactics and Brotherhood of Steel are one of the earlier games of Fallout. See, now I'm gonna fall into my hole now. Trust me. It was the first game in like 97. Then there was 2, and then there was 2 offshoots, which was Tactics and Brotherhood of Steel. So that's kind of cool. And I'm like, it's funny then that in 4 he plays one of the paladins in the Brotherhood of Steel faction in 4. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense then if that's what he was a part of. Because I definitely don't have a Brotherhood of Steel tattoo right there. Look, I'm legit Oppenheimer. I'm right there. It says war never changes. It was either that or Ad Victorum, which is their slogan. I do want one of their flags, though, one of the Brotherhood of Steel flags, to put right next to my Assassin's Creed 3 flag. Merca.
Merca.
Yeah, Merca.
But that's pretty much all we have for our breakdown. It's probably a good time to start wrapping things up. But real quick, I'll go to you first, Jeremy. Final thoughts on Oppenheimer, the film. What did you think?
Woo! It's a hell of a movie. I'll say that. I definitely would see it again. It's one of those things where it's like, I think it would warrant a special place of being on the shelf as physical media. I think I would buy this movie. Again, even if, watch it a few times. I know it's 3 hours. I know it's a big commitment, but again, if you don't know anything about it, you might learn something, or hell, like I said, we linked that guy who does the biographs. Even if you want to watch like a 30-ish minute, I don't remember how long it was, maybe 45
None
minutes.
of those videos are more than a half an hour. They're anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes.
I was thinking like 30 minutes. So if you want to watch a quick little snippet of like him explaining Oppenheimer, and then maybe go see this, or if you're into a little more humor, you can watch the epic rap battle of Oppenheimer and Thanos, which is even more of a Marvel connection now because we have Iron Man. So, there's some jokes slung in there that you're like, oh yeah, this dude's a womanizer. So that's not going to be a shock to you. It'll hit you out of left field. You won't be ready for it the first time, but hey, whoever is, no one's ever ready for that first time. Anyway, moving on from that. Very solid movie. Would definitely watch again.
Yeah, Tex, how about you? Any final thoughts on Oppenheimer?
It's a well-acted film. It's a heavy film, not just in weight of film strip, but in the information that it throws at you. If you don't know all the little details that are integral to this story, I'd brush up before I go see it if you haven't already seen it. Good biopic. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. Just give him all the awards. He deserves them. Not my kind of film. I didn't even really enjoy it. I'll be honest with you. But you can't argue how good it was and the talent within it. I credit where it's due. It is a good movie. It's just not my kind of movie. So I will be objective. I won't be, poo-poo guy. You know what I mean? So.
All right, fine. One more for victory. This is number 2, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And
there you go. I did it on purpose. You're welcome.
Yeah. As for me, I mean, I love biopics. I love historical stuff. This is an era of world history, especially American history, that's always been very intriguing to me. If this is your kind of thing, then this movie, it hits you from the very first scene. It doesn't stop till the credits start to roll. I part of me really wanted to just kind of sit there for a minute, just take the movie in. But I was like, I need to get out there. For one, I wanted to make sure we shot the quick review of the Exorcist trailer, but also I wanted to get out and get my thoughts while they were fresh in my head on camera for our quick non-spoiler review of this after we got to the theater. It is a very deep movie. It is very, very dense. I can see where that might turn some people off. But I don't know that you can make a movie like this any other way. There's a lot this is a very mercurial, very weird, deep person to try to tell their story. And I think this was the right film to do that. I think this was the right filmmaker. I think this was the right cast. I couldn't. I mean, I walked out of the theater not having anything in my head that I could complain about this movie. I mean, I had to stretch. I mean, I had to stretch a little bit just to even get to the scenes that I talked about that I didn't think were very good. the one scene that I thought was kind of awkward didn't fit. But again, it's like I was telling Jeremy, it fits in the context of how people are seeing everything. So it wasn't that it was a bad scene. It was just something I would have done. But there's everything about this movie is awesome. I think this is the best movie that's come out since the beginning of the pandemic, at least. I mean, the last couple of years. And I know that's not saying a whole lot because, we had about a year and a half and there weren't any movies. But honestly, if this would have come out any other year, I think it probably would have worked over a couple of movies that ended up winning a lot of Oscars. It's that good. Again, very deep. It might take a couple of watches for some people to really get the nuance of the film, but that's not a bad thing. I think once you get it, you're going to be happy that you watched it for a second time. I understand that people are going to say that it's too long. 3-hour long movies they're a tough sell. They're a tough sell for a lot of reasons. But for me personally, what I enjoy getting out of film, I thought this movie was fantastic. I didn't mind sitting there for 3 hours. I was telling Jeremy as we were leaving the theater, I had no problem sitting through this. I had no problem sitting through Endgame. I didn't have a problem sitting through either of the first 2 Avatar films. So it just length is all about the story you're going to tell, and I'm not really mad about the runtime. Again, a very interesting story about a very interesting man, a very interesting time in the world. There was so much here to like, and even if you're not a fan of Cillian Murphy, even if you're not a fan of Christopher Nolan, there's something about this movie that makes it kind of special. I don't think you have to specifically be a fan of any one of these guys to look at parts of this movie and kind of be blown away by it, just kind of by its artistry, by the way they put it all together. I think it was fantastic. I have been the last several years, full years, pandemic years notwithstanding, my most anticipated film of the year coming into the year, a lot of them kind of disappointed me. A couple of years ago, it was The Green Knight. I'm not big on sword and shield stuff, but those trailers I really, really liked. That movie ended up kind of really falling flat for me in the end. It was really disappointing because I like Dev Patel. I love him as an actor. But that movie just really didn't do it for me. And like my most anticipated movies have all been kind of disappointing me the last several years. But this movie did not by any stretch of the imagination. It is everything that I wanted it to be. And I was really worried going into it because I think part of it is that I had kind of, built myself up so much walking to the theater about these movies being great. They didn't quite meet the expectation I had set for myself, and it felt like they were letdowns. This one, not even close. I couldn't have imagined this movie being any better. And it was just amazing. So, Tex really disagreed with me. But he's probably having another connection issue. He has one a show. We lose Tex once a show, but
he's riding the shockwave. That's what he's gone.
But I'm not at all mad at this movie in any way, shape, or form for anything that it did. No. It's a fantastic film. I think go see it in the theaters. You will. Mm-hmm. Again, I tell people a lot of times that when it comes to special effects movies, things like that, space battles, Star Wars, Star Trek, Avengers. You want to go to the theater to kind of see these movies in the scope that they were designed to be seen in. That if you're not going to see them on TV, if you're going to see Star Wars on TV for the first time, you're not really going to get the full effect. You should always try to see it on a big screen to get the full effect. This is one of those movies where I would normally say if you want to, you can wait for streaming, but there is something very cinematic about this film. And I'm not talking about the test. I mean, Tex is right. The test is a very small part of this movie. There is something very cinematic about this movie that you need to see in scope. You need to see the congressional testimony, like that one scene that I showed with Robert Downey Jr. sitting on the couch. I mean, it's like that scene hits differently on a big screen. That visual hits differently on a theater. And I think you'd be doing yourself a big favor to actually go see this in the theaters. A big favor to go see this in the theaters because it really is worth the watch. And if you had a chance to go see, we didn't see it in IMAX. We actually went and saw it in the we watched one standard. I might have look. I'm not one of those guys that falls over for IMAX or 3D or any of these gimmicks. I don't think it works for a lot of movies. I'm going to go back and check this out in IMAX. I'm going to go ahead and drop some coin on an IMAX ticket because I want to see exactly how it affects this movie. I have a feeling it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because just seeing it in standard def and everything was pretty awesome. If IMAX makes it just a little bit better, that's going to be worth the price of admission for me. So definitely go to theaters, go see this movie. Again, it is very deep. It is a bit of a slow burn at times, but I think it's worth the watch. I think it's really, really worth the watch. It's a very, very good film. And I don't know why Tex hasn't come back yet. Hopefully he will in the next few seconds, but until then, we'll just go ahead and
I know what happened. He jumped in the refrigerator and he rode that bitch out of this chat.
He nuked the fridge.
He really did.
He nuked the fridge.
Oh, man.
I don't know. But Jeremy, where can the folks at home find you?
Well, I am here on Thursdays for sure. Currently, next we're going to do the 2003 version of The Haunted Mansion, of which we are going to see the 2023 version and then review that next week. So, I mean, those reviews like this one, I mean, it could be internet depending. It could be, whatever. It could be Tuesday. It could be Monday, Wednesday. Who knows? But the best place to really find all that information is on whatever Elon Musk's calling it this week. Like I said, I don't know. That thing.
Twitter X.
Sure. Twitter X. I don't know.
That thing that Elon owns. Follow us on the thing that Elon owns. Yeah.
Maybe don't do that. I don't know. Take that advice how you want. Maybe not SpaceX, but hey, you can, or Tesla, but you can follow us on the social media thing. Yeah. So we're there. I have a Twitch and a YouTube, which I do absolutely jack shit with. And I think now that I'm going to start doing some more like cosplay stuff, like I said, I'm a nerd for stuff like this, like effects and like practical stuff, props, cosplays, as you can tell, because I'm written into a corner. Now I got to do this every damn week. So whatever. But I don't mind it. That's the part of the fun, right? And now we have that gag where she's back there somewhere doing something. So yeah, that's what you come for.
It's becoming a regular thing. But
yeah, I know. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll do that on like Instagram or something. My name that's not my name. I know that's a joke now too. I'm changing my name every time, but it's Grim Tuesday 23 on everything. I've actually considered maybe going to Kick because I know it's like, oh, we're all going to flock to the new thing because I'm like, well, Twitch has now become its own machine, and I know I'm preaching, but it's harder to get in there. You don't, so I might try a new revenue. So I might try Kick. So I don't know. Be on the lookout for that. Other than that, yeah, I'm in Brooding Gamers universe of, dinosaurs and Haunted Mansion. So he'll be here with us for that, even if Tex is still riding the shockwave. And hopefully he figures out which end of the door to open of the fridge. So.
Well, he lives closer to the Trinity site than we do, so maybe the shockwave just finally got to his house.
Or maybe it's residual radiation or something. It's frying his brain. I don't know.
It's the fallout. That's what it is. The fallout moving his direction. That's what it was. Let's see. As for me, you can find me here a couple nights a week. Right now, we're primarily just doing reviews now. There is some news. I mean, real quick, Jeremy, Sinead O'Connor passed away today. That news broke today. I mean,
I saw you share that.
You're the 90s baby, but I very much appreciated her music. I mean, it was big in my high school years. I mean, any quick thoughts on that before we get out of here?
No, I kind of agree with what you said. It's like, it's kind of a sad, troubled life, but, I hope her soul found some peace. I mean, that sucks, man. It's always too soon. I was going to say real quick, even speaking of 90, but someone who was 96, we lost Tony Bennett as well. I mean, you want to talk about a legend. Holy crap.
Yeah, so some tough losses in the entertainment world the last week or so. But yeah,
I hate to. I was like, wait, threes. Who's next? I don't want to think about it, but there's two.
It seems like it happens 6 or 7 at a time now. So
yeah,
there's no shortage of elderly people. There were celebrities that are just they're like in line somewhere. But,
we're losing the greats. I know, but
we are. But yeah, very, very sad. Sinead O'Connor's story is definitely a sad one. I mean, a lot of. Even before she became famous, there was a lot of sadness and struggle in her life, and then fame tends to exacerbate some of those things. And in her case, it was exactly the case, really. But hopefully, in death, her soul will be able to find some peace that she wasn't allowed in life. But yeah, definitely go take a minute to remember her today. Enjoy some of her music if that's your thing. Hell of a voice. Yeah. Her and Dolores O'Riordan. I mean, something about the Scotland Ireland accent that translates very well to music, and unfortunately, we've lost them both in the last several years. So, but yeah, definitely, our hearts go out to her family. All of this. Her son just committed suicide. What a year when he was 17? Is this a year ago?
Something like that. Yeah.
So yeah, so her family's definitely going through it right now. So definitely our best wishes to her family over there. They're terrible losses. But go enjoy some of her music. It's the best way to pay respects to her is just to go enjoy some of the stuff that she left behind, the great music. So as for me, you can find me here. Like I said, like Jeremy said, we'll be back tomorrow doing the retro review of Haunted Mansion from 2000 whatever 7 something like that. 2003. Brooding Gamer will be here with us for that. I don't know if Tex will be here tomorrow or not. Either for tomorrow or for Tuesdays, he will not be here because he will be on the road doing some work. But we will have Brooding Gamer here to cover for that. So don't worry. We'll have plenty of people here to break down that movie. And then next week, I forget what we have going on. But there's, like I said, we're deep into the summer movie season now. Plenty of stuff going on. I don't know about The Exorcist just yet.
Maybe.
But we'll see. We'll have to talk about that one. But
I've got the perfect person for you.
I know, but I want to make sure Tex is here too because you and him, horror is your guys' wheelhouse, and I don't want to shut him out of that particular.
Spooky season!
I want horror everywhere. I want as many people from as many angles to talk about that movie as possible. So
spooky season's coming, man. I'm
definitely going to make sure we schedule that where everybody that I want to have around is going to be available for that. I want that to be a great discussion because that's a great movie that I think it's on people's list of best movies of all time, not just horror movies, but like some serial cinephiles have that as one of the top 3, some even the top 4 of all time. So that movie is going to garner a lot of discussion, especially with the new trailer coming out for the new Exorcist Believer. We'll obviously be talking about that a little bit too. But yeah, thank you guys very much for coming out. It very much appreciated. I don't know what happened to Tex. He probably ran into some technical difficulties. Like I said, we lose him once a show, and it happens. So, but whatever. Tex will be back once we figure out what's wrong with technical difficulties. Until next time, we'll see you later, my friends. Thanks for hanging out. Adios. Jeremy, real quick before we get out of here, what do you think the body count was?
How many people were in both cities?
How many people? I mean, we're talking like 200,000 instantaneously, another probably 200,000 afterwards. I mean, do we count? The Tarkov character, the girl that Florence Pugh played.
Florence
Does
Pugh.
she count? I don't know. Who knows?
Maybe.